Yeah, so Marty's going to start with a fly pass down the crowd, 100 feet max speed, which I know doesn't look like a lot for a helicopter, especially with the 20 knot headwind we have today. But the Seahawk can keep up with some of the big ones that you see in the paddock also, like the Chinooks and the Apaches too.
I was looking at it earlier, and you have gone for virtually no markings on these things. If you look at all the military aircraft around, you can see the Australian Rondell, the Kangaroo, markings and the rest of it. You have gone...
Well, we're far more humble in the Navy, of course.
So is that an operational thing?
No, not so much. It's probably just the Seahawk it looks like today. Every little bit of real estate on that thing has a bolted new toy onto it, so it's covered in weapons and sensors. So it's probably just a real estate thing where we don't have too much stuff painted on the side.
So tell us what's... Oh, sorry.
The aircraft is going to the left and just climbing there. Just how hard is it, that manoeuvre that he's doing?
Yeah, so for a helicopter coordinated wing over, it's probably the quickest way to turn back around on itself if we need to go in the opposite direction. Marto's going to do 2 of these away from the crowd, so he'll come past crowd center. What the Seahawk actually is.
And we had a nice little close-up just a moment ago. There's a bit of a ball happening on its nose. Perhaps you could tell us about that.
Yeah, so you're looking at the FLIR. So it's a combined TV camera with infrared sensor, and it's also loaded with lasers in there too. So for our laser-guided munitions, that's how we best target ID and then get weapons downrange if the bad guys aren't playing the game.
You've got a crew normally of 3 on board, is that right?
That's right, yeah. So we operate single pilot in the Navy, so Marto will be sitting in the front right as the aircraft captain. Today, Sub-Lieutenant Nick Mudd is in the front left, he's our mission commander. It's generally how we construct our ships. He's the center operator. Today is Petty Cole, and she's operating everything and providing that information to the mission commander.
And we saw on that underside pass then the big round dish at the front.
Yeah, our surface search radar. So in the both surface warfare, subsurface warfare, it's an incredibly handy tool to have. It can effectively, for submarines, find periscopes from an enormous distance, is all I'm allowed to say. Same with if we increase our altitude for surface warfare, we can see stuff out at an incredible distance.
And has it got that capability to see in any other aircraft, or is it just the surface?
Yeah, it's got that also. It is not angled so high, like it's not necessarily designed for that, but it's got an inbuilt interrogator too, so we can prosecute airborne targets and see everyone who's in the battle space.
What a fabulous shot. Tell us what's going on in the cockpit now.
Yeah, so Marto, quick stop at the crowd, so he's just showing how quickly the Seahawk can pull up, and he's just giving the crew the opportunity to wave at everybody before he sets up for the climbing 360 turn to the left. So this manoeuvre is just demonstrating how much power the Seahawk has in hand, increasing the thrust on the main rotor disc and also the tail as it comes up to 800 feet. Today there's an added surprise, they've got some flares stocked on board too, so if all the systems are working as they should be, we should see some fireworks at the top of the climb.
Fantastic. Tell us a little bit about that tail configuration, because that's a little bit unusual.
Yeah, Seahawks operate, I would say this is the standard configuration for a helicopter, so main disc and a tail rotor also. You can see the unique thing about the Hawk, it's got a 20-degree tilt to the side, just to help out with some of the stability and thrust there. Other stuff you'll see in the paddock today, you've got the Chinook, which has got the twin main heads, and the 135's got a slightly different tail rotor also.
Is this a camera opportunity?
Yeah, get your cameras out for this one. Hopefully it all kicks off in a second.
And the reason for flares?
It's our last ditch effort for if we get trapped and then locked onto by a missile. If we have to go all the way into a weapon engagement zone for whatever reason, and we do get lit up, then the flares will hopefully take the missile for us as we evade and get down to the ground level.
How do you store these on ships?
There's big armories all over ships, so yeah, everything on the ship has its purpose, so there's weapon lockers and
land on it. Just how difficult is that?
Yeah, it takes a bit of practice, and it's probably the most challenging phase of flight that we do, but we've had so much time now to make that training package as robust as it is, so we'll start the guys off in day, in nice benign conditions, and then eventually work up to dark and stormy nights with lots of rain and no illumination. and get them to plonk down on the tiny little flight deck that's rocking and rolling below them.
So he's just manoeuvred now to essentially our left, and he's going to sort of pirouette around. Again, how difficult is that?
Yeah, this is the Juno's favourite, the pirouette. So 720 turn all the way down the runway, and this is usually the final one. So all cross controls, motors move in the cross vector with his right hand on the side brake, maintaining height as he goes around with his left hand on the brake, tail with his feet, and he comes all the way around. Hopefully to hit crowd centre like he is for the moment.
We see a lot of black holes on the side with round circles.
So the aim of the game and the primary use of this helicopter is submarine warfare. So we have a close relationship with our PA brothers. You'll see one of those in the field today. They'll go out, put sonar buoys in the water. It's a sensor we use to get a general idea where a submarine is, and then they can give us, pass us that information. Two Seahawks will go out, do the exact same thing, and try and triangulate that, determine if they're bad or not, and then we take things from there.
It's not just a submarine warfare creature, though. It does do other things as well. What other sorts of missions does it undertake?
The Seahawk, like any helicopter, is a bit of a jack of all trades. So that's his primary role, and it is littered with weapons and sensors to do that. But we can also modify and take that stuff out to meet any demand that we're tasked for. So anti-surface warfare, or like what we've been doing the last few years, is all the national emergency work. So search and rescue, fire, floods, utility evolutions. We can put a cargo hook on the bottom, or it's got a hoist out the right-hand side. So it can still do all those functions that you'd expect of a utility helicopter.
So if you're on a long-range deployment on a ship, and you get a resupply ship, is this the sort of helicopter you would use to provide some of that resupply?
That's right, yeah. And it's our relationship with the Americans kind of ties in seamlessly with that too. So that US supply ship generally will have their own helicopters, the Sierra model, so this is the ROMEO, and they a lot of the time leave them in a util configuration. So if they're not on board or it's one of our own, we do that role and move pallets between. But generally those guys will help us out and hit it.
So can you tell us about your path to the cockpit of the ROMEO?
So I, unfortunately, everything that I learned flying is doing historically, and which makes me feel a little bit older. So CT4 and PC9, did those initial flight schools with the Air Force, and then over onto the Squirrels, which you won't see here today, before flying a few other little helicopters around, and then onto the Hawk 10 years ago. I was lucky enough to do my initial training in America over in Florida with the Americans. And then progressing through the categories to be an instructor at our training squadron along with Mardo. This is my current role.
This is my favourite part of this display.
Yeah,
Can you talk us what's happening here?
So he's doing a non-standard, I would say, landing and departure, is what you could call this one. So he's just effectively showing up at this point, and as he's a motorcycle enthusiast, wheeling the helicopter down the runway straight into what we call a Hollywood takeoff. So you seem to see that departure every single time in the movies. But like I like to say, we enjoy seeing where we're going when we usually take off, so you'll only really see that one today.
Now you mentioned as well that obviously you started on fixed-wing aircraft and then move on to rotary. Just how much of a difference is it? Because earlier on you mentioned that if you went back to fixed wing, it would be quite a change really in the way you actually fly.
That's right, and it is a massive change. We do a thing called hover camp when we first go on to rotary, where they essentially throw you into a paddock and get you to start one control at a time, trying to keep the helicopter where it is, and you dial that into being able to fix it on a 50-cent coin. Those initial schools on planes are essential for our training. They not only teach you the skills to fly around Australia, but really bed in the core skills of being an aircraft captain before we then ask you to learn how to hover.
Who's waving?
That'll be Belle waving to the crowd on our final pass, so make sure everyone stands up and give her a good wave. Will we ever see fixed-wing aviation return to the Fleet Air Arm, do you think? Oh, who knows, yeah. I don't know if we'd want to.